All right, good evening, everyone. How's everyone feeling? Positive? Yeah? Before we start, I wanted to ask who here in the room is a product owner? Just put any designers? Very good. Any agile coaches or agile experts? Okay. Any software engineers? Good. Any data scientists or data engineers? No? All right, very good. Welcome, everyone. No? Let's get into it. Let me ask another question. Has any of you heard of Future Lab? You have? Ah. Oh, there you go. You know, some Future Labbers here. I want to start and say, why I am here. And there's two answers for that. There's the short answer and the longer answer. The shorter answer is that because Maxime invited me the other day. And the longer answer is, I would say, because I think I've been around quite a while, and I think I've got something to share with you that might be of interest to your career, to your, to your own kind of development. And so I have, 25 years experience, so a little bit more. For the last 10 years before, by the way, I just joined Future Lab in January. But before that, for 10 years, I was at McKinsey, most of it in London, and the last 2 years in Madrid. Before McKinsey, I worked at companies like Barclays, Vodafone, Yahoo, and a couple of other consultancies, all in London. So, one more question. Anyone guess where I'm from? Hang on. Someone said it. Brazil. Yes. So, I am... This was going to say, I can see who checked me out on LinkedIn. So I was born in London, but both my parents are from Brazil. My whole family, although they come from Europe a couple of generations back, but they're from Brazil. I lived in London until I was 5 or 6, and then I went to Brazil, did all my school there. Then I came back to London to university, where I stayed until I moved here to Baku. So this is an adventure for me as well, and so I thank you for giving me the time and also bearing with me. I've been trying to work some Azerbaijani words, but it's very early stage, very early stage. So let me talk to you a little bit about Future Lab. We formed recently, we're part of Pasha Innovation, and we have a mandate to go about these three things. And I don't know if you've heard about the build thing that we're doing, which we call lighthouses. We're doing one with Pasha Pay and one with Pasha Insurance. But the main thing for us, the main mandate that we have and mission is to ignite and promote a culture of innovation within Pasha holding companies and for the whole of Azerbaijan. So we want to start doing things within the Pasha holding ecosystem, really trying to move mindsets of people in general in terms of expanding their viewpoints, doing things differently, challenging the status quo. But we want to go beyond and start to working with companies that are not just part of the Pasha group, like going to education, going to healthcare, agriculture, although I know Pasha has some agriculture businesses. But the key thing is for us to help inspire people and help them think differently. The second thing is to activate. So we want to train people in things like this, like design thinking and product mindset, you name it. Anything that has to do with a culture shift, if it is to do with HR, if it is to do with product building, if it is to do with some legal processes, anything that requires people to think slightly out of the box to achieve things. And I'll give you a couple of examples. The work we've been doing in Pasha Insurance, we've already been able to change the way they recruit people from months to just days. With kind of influencing the procurement process. So all these little things that you don't see day to day, but it actually makes a huge difference on the Pasha brand because people having a good onboarding experience, things happening fast, you get in your contract quicker, you've been able to get in, your laptop is already there. And I know that different companies within the Pasha Group has a different level of maturity. So if you work from Capital Bank, you might have a slightly different experience than if you work for Pasha Life. I'm just saying. And we want to kind of level up the level of maturity of all the companies within the Pasha Group. And the last is to build lovable products. So build lovable products is a way for us to get a foot in the door and understand the challenges that we are facing in terms of culture setting and mindset shifting. We are working with Pasha Insurance to launch a new insurance product in the market, which we're building outside their core platform, which is called, you'll find out more, it's called UVAM, which is a home insurance to start with. And really working with them to build a sandbox environment outside the normal IT scenario, working with them to create, to be able to access the database quicker in all these different things. So this is a bit of Future Lab. Any questions? So by the way, we're going to launch a design thinking mindset training in June. And you can all apply and you have your certification if we do it right, which we plan to do. Okay, now let's get into design thinking, right? The term design thinking got really kind of start to be spoken in the 90s because the people from IDEO, this is one of the founders of IDEO, started kind of permeating that word, that term within the things that they were doing. But design thinking, actually, the first person who coined the phrase is a scientist called Herbert Simon in 1969. So it's been going on for a while, but it's been widely adopted in the 90s, and I think now everyone has heard of design thinking in some kind of shape or form. And the key thing is that, and it's a very simple concept, put human beings at the center of everything that you do, because there's nothing, that you look around you, this carpet, this screen, this pillar, there has been a designer in some kind of shape or form, and also probably could be a product owner as well. But the key thing for me to get today to explain a little bit is the difference between design as a lot of people in the corporate world sees and what design really means. So this for me is interesting because when I first started at McKinsey, and you'd not normally associate McKinsey with a very design-driven organization. So I went into a project where this partner guy handed me a yellow paper, is where they used to draw their slides in the yellow paper, and said, can you make this look beautiful? And I said, that's not what I do. He said, what do you mean? You're not a designer? I said, yes, I am. So what do you do? Do you draw? I said, I can draw, but not very well. So you one of these can kind of code? I said, no, I cannot code either. I said, and he said, what the hell do you do then? So I explained to him what design with the big D is. So strategic thinking, how design can actually influence large organizations, can have a seat at the table with the C-suite, and can really inform companies to have a customer-centric culture. And this can really affect the way that their customers perceive the value of their brand, and ultimately how much money they make and how much money the company generates for these stakeholders. So that's design with a small d, which is the design, the people coloring in, which then I've heard this term a lot of times. And for the designers in the room, probably you can relate to that. And design with the big D, which is the real design. So I have a little video to start. I did this for McKinsey 5 years ago, but for me is very valid, and I want to see your reaction to it. Right. Let's not stop on the McKinsey thing. But we did this at the time that we wanted to really promote design within McKinsey. And in some shape or form, I feel like this is, again, another time, another point in time where we need to really fly the flag for the big D design. So let's take a moment to appreciate the wonderful gift of human imagination. This is what this kind of slide does to me. So you probably heard, or you said it yourself, I'm a right brain thinker, or I'm a left brain thinker, I'm a creative guy, or I'm a kind of, analytical person. I don't know if you've taken your Myers-Briggs test to see what kind of personality you have. But the truth is, this is interesting to kind of to talk about creativity and design and how kind of other types of people complement the design process. But in reality, this is not true. There's no such a thing as a left brain or a right brain. The brain is a lot more complex than that. But what there is there's a part of your brain somewhere that is responsible for language, for your analytical, your rational thinking, and there is a part of your brain that is responsible for your basic instincts. So the one that we acquired, tens of thousands of million years ago, and it evolved with evolution. And the good thing to say is that when you come into a problem, when you're developing a product, it's good to bring these two sides of your brain to the conversation. And that's why we always advocate for kind of cross-functional teams. So a designer needs to work with the engineer, with the product, with an agile, with data, with business to understand. And one of the problems that designers have had, historically, is that no design education really prepares designers for the real world. So we normally say that, we need designers because they can put themselves in the shoes of customers. Great. I think designers, throughout their education, their career, they develop the ability to create empathy with people. Yes. But if you're not able to also put yourself in the shoes of CEOs and business leaders, then you're probably not creating a solution that is creating impact for the client or the company that you're working for, right? So that's the important to have the two sides of the coin, of the brain, if you want to say. And it's important that designers work with product well, with other disciplines, with business and so on. And this is, again, another McKinsey thing, but we did this project a few years ago where we realized that, okay, a lot of people don't understand the value that design brings to the table, right? And designers normally are not very good to articulate it either. So how can we prove the actual value that design brings? So we conducted over, it's kind of almost 10 years now, this research with almost all S&P 500 companies to understand how much design are within the organization. What does that mean? So is there like a senior design leader reporting at the top of the company? How much money are they investing in design tools, in design education, in program to upskill their designers? How their kind of departments are organized? Who does design reports to? Does design sits within product or within marketing or within technology or digital? So we start analyzing that, and we created a matrix. And the companies that scored top on this matrix outperformed their competition by the number there, 32% in revenue and 56% in return to shareholders. So we started to be able to articulate the value that design can bring in tangible numbers so people can understand the value of it. Any questions? Yeah? No? Okay. Very good. Do I need to go slower? Do I need to go faster? Do I need to go in Azerbaijan? No? Because at this stage I can I can try. Okay, so you've seen this, right? Probably. And this we use a lot in terms of, designer needs to bring to the table their skills, but they need to work with other profiles and other functions within the business if you want to create a successful product or service, put it on the market. So the thing that this diagram does is to say that we always start with the customer. And that is the only difference, let me say. We can bring all your problem-solving techniques, we can use them, but we bring one that actually starts with understanding I like to say human beings and not customers, but ultimately customers. But it also needs to be viable, it always needs to be feasible. And when we manage to get it in this sweet spot, and that's when magic happens. So when you understand customers, understand business, understand kind of technology, and we understand the art of the possible, and we can create something that is engaging, unique, innovative. Now, have you ever heard that saying that if Henry Ford had asked his customers what they wanted, you've heard that, little chestnut, when he was creating the first car? So the customers would have said, we need faster horses. Why? Because they didn't know what they didn't know. Car was not a thing. So that is probably one of the biggest mistakes that when companies are doing research, they commit, which is they ask people what they want. But a lot of the times, people don't know what they want because they haven't seen it, right? You sometimes say, no, I know a good thing when I see it. So it's very important that you take the time to observe and understand how they go about their day-to-day lives, how they behave, and what actually underline that behavior and attitude that customers have. So only when you go deep down that route, you're really able to understand what is going to motivate them to adopt your product or your service, or to change their mindset towards doing something to doing something else. And that's why, if you look at companies, I know it's probably cliche now, but Uber, Airbnb, Netflix, they didn't kill their competitors. Like Uber didn't kill the taxi industry. They just created they solved the problem that the taxi industry was not solving. Netflix solved the problem that, like blockbusters, they were not solving. The same happened, Nokia, they died in Airbnb. You say, oh, Airbnb is killing the hotel industry. Well, the hotel industry is too slow to innovate. So someone like Airbnb comes and offers a service that people want. So they've all gone really deep in understand customer behavior. Now, the other point is, if I would go, probably not to you, because you know a bit more, but if you go to a business leader in some organization and ask, do you understand your customer? And 99% are going to say, of course we understand our customers. But the reality is, most of them, they understand demographic data about their customers, and a few understands really ethnographic data about their customers. So they would know how old their customer base is, what is the family situation, kid, 2 kids, how much money they make, where they live, geographically, and so on. But they're not taking the time to, again, what I said before, to understand the underlying behavior, motivations, pain points, what keeps them awake at night. And a good example is just a little experiment. So, am I in front of you? No, I am in front of you. I'll get here. So if you look at this, if you're looking through your database and you saw these 2 profiles, right? So by the demographic data, you'd think that they're exactly the same. Let's say you're doing a persona exercise. So this is the same persona. No, I just created one persona with these characteristics. But in reality, an apology for the cheesy transition. Look at that. These are the 2 profiles, right? What's the point? They could not be more different. They have all the same demographic data. They have the same age. They were born in the same place. They're in the same family situation, divorced with 2 kids. They go on holiday in the same place. They had love dogs. But listen, if you're developing a product for this profile, you'd get it so wrong for one of them, right? Because they're very different. So that's just highlights the fact that you need to go like a level deeper to understand who you're designing for.
Why? They both like Rolls-Royce.
Ho-
They both like Rolls-Royce.
They do, but but they might like music, different types of music. They might like different types of experience. One might like a crowded environment. One might like a more, subdued environment. So I guess if you're developing an app, you kind of targeted them in a very different way, right? That's the point. So that's a good observation. Let me stop here. Anyone had an experience where you're doing research, you kind of found something similar to that, which is, you feel the people you coming up with, the personas you're doing, the research is similar, but then when you understand a level deeper, you see that actually there are some specific behaviors that can differentiate them.
And just to be aware of that fact, this is the fact.
And that's you make a good point, because actually, if you guys are involved with kind of interviewing customers, I think it requires a very specific set of skills to interview someone and to understand exactly to get the data that you need from that, right? Because the first thing is you need to know how to listen. In reality, I don't know if you've heard that, but verbal communication is only like 10% of communication. The rest is body language, your facial expression. So you need to pick up on these little nuances when you do an interview. So you need to really take the time, know how to ask a question, know how to probe further depending on the kind of the answer that you received. That's why I always say, you need to get someone who is actually trained and get some experience in doing customer research for doing kind of ethnographic research. But yeah, I mean, you should continue. Yeah? Absolutely. I think you touch on a very important thing, culture. So I'd love to be involved in some of the research that we're doing, but I watch from far because first I don't speak the language, so there's no point. But I don't have the cultural nuances yet, at least. I don't understand, and I think understanding the culture is probably one of the most important things to do. But also, to your point, rule number one of interviewing: don't ask a closed-ended question. Don't ask a yes or no question, because that's the end of your interaction. So always kind of try to get the person to talk and open up, and yeah, try to understand if he understands tax. Don't ask yes or no if he wants to pay or not, but start understanding how he feels about tax in general, how he's running, if it's running his business, if it's a business. And then you get to the answer that you want by other means. But yeah, very good point. So continue. Double diamond. You probably seen that before. So at the core of design process, it is this idea of diverging and converging. Right? So at the beginning, you really open your mind and trying to kind of absorb and digest as much information, data might be from customer, might be from businesses, that you can, to be able to understand, first of all, what is the problem that you're trying to solve. Again, a lot of people kind of rush into solution before understanding that the problem you're trying to solve is the right problem to solve, before you're trying to think about how to solve it. Right? So, and this we quickly converge on some hypotheses, some ideas, then we open again, we test it, we iterate the concept, which I think is going to resonate with agile people in the room, to fail fast. Right? And this, for me, is as much as a cultural thing, as a mindset thing, as a process thing. Because if you're not prepared to fail, right, you'll never come up with anything original. And this is key. If you're not prepared to fail, to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything new or different. So this kind of shift in mindset is super important. And for us, designers, is that idea that, are we building the right thing before we kind of get into building the things right? So, who's seen this before? I searched the other day and I found this on the dark web. So, my point here is I wanted to show this side by side, your product life cycle, to a design thinking process. So I recreated this with the key design style, and it's very similar, right? I've personally had never heard of the term decomposition before on this context, but we do the same as designers when you're kind of defining the problem going into concept. So you're kind of funneling in, dividing things into kind of multiple pieces and understanding kind of the whole. So we go through that phase while kind of decomposing things in the same way. So we test it, we fail, we iterate the same way that the product life cycle does. We tested. Here is not UAT, it's customer testing. That, I guess, is also part of your decomposition process. And then your post-analysis, we keep kind of iterating and improving, and then you go again. So very similar. But where I wanted to get in the end is this. The intersection between product and design. Because for me, again, that's when the magic happens, right? Obviously, in an organization, the product team has their role, has their responsibility, the design team, the same, the engineering team, the data team. But how they come together and work together is the most important thing. It doesn't matter ultimately, because I mentioned, where does the design team reports to? Is it within product? Is it within digital or technology or marketing? The question for you guys when you're working together is are you actually coming together and problem solving together, right? Whatever technique you're using to problem solve, are you doing this together in a room? Are you putting posters on the wall? Are you debating? Are you discussing? Is this relevant? What is the most priority for us? And the product team, I call the product owner like the mini CEO of a product, right? So ultimately, it's his product, it's his decision, and he needs to drive it forward. He needs to be passionate about it. He needs to be visionary, and he needs to kind of bring the whole team along on this journey. The design team, alongside, is responsible for, I'll say, the voice of the customer, bring the voice of the customer so the product owner can make informed decisions about his product. And this process of working together, probably, advocating for the customer is where the two needs to align, right? And the rest of the business. So I like to say that in an organization, be a small one like us, Future Lab, we're only 15 people at the moment, or be Capital Bank, I don't know, but a lot of people, how many you have. Everyone should be responsible for customer experience, not just the designer, not just the product owner. Every single person, from the person making the tea to the CEO of the company, they all should be responsible. They all have a role to play in creating a great experience for customers, for employees, for everyone, right? And understanding your responsibility is great, and understanding how you come together is also very important. Any questions? Okay. This is a funny little video. So this is a project that we worked on, again, a few years ago in London, where a new digital bank was kind of getting born. And they did, as a marketing thing, they did this video, which is if your local pub, if your local bar was run like your local bank, how it would be. So they placed cameras along the pub, and they did this kind of joke with customers coming in without they knowing. Obviously, soon it became clear there was a joke. But I wanted you to have a look. For those working in Capital Bank or Pasha Bank, those working in banking industry.
Okay, number 7. Number 2, have a cappuccino, please. Got to put me on hold while I translate to the coffee department.
Hi there, how can I help?
Just put me through to the coffee department. I don't quite get it.
Sorry, you've got to do a
Would you like to make an application for some food or drink today? I just need the first line of your address and your mother's maiden name.
What?
Just going to put me on hold while I translate to the line department.
Double with about a 7 and Coke, please.
Oh, blimey, that's completely on my reach. I'll put you on hold for that one.
Right to cancel your fish and chips without prior notification. However, you do not notify us in writing.
This is important to us. Hi there, what can I get? Thank you very much, it's £5.
Cappuccino, sorry, Francis.
£6. Take your charges. So there'll be £100 of unnecessary charges.
Oh, how much? For wine and what?
Yeah, so £6 for the wine, and then the rest is unnecessary charges. I'm afraid I can't.
He's just saying he can't take his payment at the moment.
it's awful, yeah.
And eventually I felt a bit angry and I wanted to give up.
Wherever you go, if you paid for a service and it was bad, you wouldn't go back. The service was absolutely terrible, and I thought I'd never come back again.
Customers, would you mind taking a short survey? Your feedback is so important to us.
Okay. So when we did this, so in London, so a lot of the banks, the big ones, the big traditional Lloyds Bank, HSBC, people would directly relate to some of that. And I know time has gone and a lot has changed in terms of technology, but for the Capital Bank workers here, I went to open my account at Capital Bank a few weeks ago. Whew. It was painful. And I mean, they don't need to ask me, to tell that the chairs weren't comfortable, the decoration of the whole place was horrible, and I had to sit and sign literally 50 times sheets of paper. Maybe because I'm a foreigner and there was a bit more, I understand that, but it's still 50. No? And I thought, I'm going to get the CEO of Capital Bank and get 50 pages. Say, can you just sign for me here? It's 50 to 1, 2, 3. It's like, whew. And then I left. Oh, I've got my account. And then before I got to a car, rings the phone. Oh, Pedro, can you come back? Forgot to sign one more thing. So, yeah. So there you go. Now we're here, the team is going to make that digital, fully digital, and we don't have to sign 50 pieces of paper. So we're talking about design mainly, and how kind of design interacts with product, right? And if there's one concept that for me is the most important when you're doing product development, both for product, for design, and for anyone else, and everyone that affects this experience that's not directly related to product development, is changing the mindset from output to outcome. Output to outcome, right? So you can have the same output with very different outcomes. And I'm going to give you an example. Who likes coffee here? I know Azerbaijan is more of a tea country, but any coffee lovers in the room? There you go. There's a few coffee lovers. So when you go and, before you get to work, you're happy, you get your coffee nice and warm in the cold. You're also walking in the streets before you get to your building with a nice cup of coffee. It wakes you up, or there's different reasons why you get your coffee. You like the taste, or because it kind of gets a bit of energy, or just because it's kind of making you happy in the morning. Now, the same with product development. You have input, so the research, the data that you're collecting, the things that kind of getting you the information to start. In this case, the coffee beans. Then you make the coffee, you either go to a barista and get and the output of that is your nice cappuccino or flat white or latte, whatever type of coffee you like, no? And the outcome is there you go, happy to work with your cup of coffee. Now, the exactly same process with the same input, but different quality, but you have the coffee as an input. You got your coffee out of it with your input, you get your mug, your cup of coffee, and off you go to work feeling sad and pissed because your coffee tastes like shit, right? So, the same process, the same input, the same activity, very different outputs. I know this is just a funny little example to communicate the idea, but this is very true for your product development life cycle. And the key thing for me is that everyone needs to be focused on what is the desired outcome. Who here works with OKRs on their teams? Everyone? I know because Maxime told me that they're developing OKRs and so on, but yeah, not everyone, yeah? So there's some people here actually that do not work with OKRs. So this is not part of this conversation here, but for me, a lot of companies still only focus on KPIs, which is very measuring what's happening now. And OKRs allows you to have a bit of a forward looking. And for me, this is the key. It's the same with output and outcome. KPIs measures output. OKRs measures outcomes. You can see the difference, no? So I think on your product teams, when you're doing your retrospectives, when you're doing sprint planning, trying to think what is the outcome that you're trying to get from your customer, when you have, but from your team as well. Make sense? Everyone still awake? No? Everyone needs coffee? Now, I wanted to highlight, so this is a little bit of a case study that I'm bringing here to you, because I just want to highlight these two things, how a team working on a product go in parallel, understanding the more intuitive side, the more humanistic side, and in parallel, you're doing more of the data-driven analytical side. So on this project, we had the design team working on customer interviews, and out of the customer interviews, again, very difficult to get the huge amount of data you get out of interviews and translate that into tangible insights, like the so what. And that's going to inform you if the actual problem you're trying to solve is the right type of problem before you go into kind of execution. Right? And for this, we're going to touch on, I don't know, I'm sure you guys work with personas, but have you worked with behavior archetypes before? Which is quite different than personas. And we're going to explain a little bit. And at the same time, there's a team of data analysts, data scientists, working on understanding the size of the opportunity, right? Understanding also if you're kind of redesigning something or create a new app, understanding what is wrong with your actual product, how are people using it, and have like hardcore data about it, to then also feed with your customer data and then allow you to proceed. So this is a project that we did for a wealth management company where they wanted to create, they want to build an investment platform to be able to attract younger customers. Because traditionally, wealth management companies, they deal with high net worth individuals, which normally are older. Obviously not everyone, but these people are getting close to retirement, so they're in phase of kind of decumulation, starting of spending money now and not accumulating more money, so not investing as much, and they're getting old. But a lot of people struggle, so the customer base is dropping because they don't know how to attract rich young people, but it's harder to attract rich young people. There's not so many of them, right? So, but if they understand that, if I am a 25-year-old kind of out of university, just recent, and you got a very, very nice education, got a really nice job, so you can think that I'm on the right path, that maybe in 10, 15 years, I will be kind of, your exact target audience. So how can I understand how to attract these people and invest, maybe if I don't make as much money now, but in 10, 15 years, I will be kind of hooking these people into my product. And I know this is super ugly, but just to say that we went into a lot of detail to understand, analyze the existing traffic of the best apps in the market on wealth management. There's a lot of great players in the US, and we kind of sign up for a few different apps to understand where are people dropping off, what are the kind of the key journeys that were critical to be able to buy and to manage the process, and what are the ones that was kind of really just adding to the size or to the weight of the app with no real impact. And we did this also for CaixaBank in Spain. Right? They have a massive app, their retail app, and I'm a new customer of Beerbank, but I also feel like it's a big app. Right? So they have a whole kind of e-commerce platform within the banking app. So we went through this simplification process to say, what can we cut out of this? How can we make the app just the core journeys that customers need to manage their kind of day-to-day finances? Right? So we did a very thorough data analysis to understand, what are the most used things in the app. Now, on the upper side of this is the customer research that we did. So we spoke to about 60 people, and here's the demographic data we analyzed. Now, I know it's not possible to always bring like their real names and their real photos for data security things, but I much more value bringing real people into the conversation than creating personas. I think personas is a good exercise, but if you can really bring the real person, so if you interview 10 people, and out of the 10 people you create a persona, why not tell the story of these 10 people? I think is more valuable to then creating that kind of fictitious character. I'm not saying there's no value into doing it. I think there is. But we kind of took the time, and we got, they signed up for this, the agreement that we could use their names and their photos. But more important, we created this adoption lab, which is during 6 months, we retained these 60 people, and every week we'd go and speak to 5 or 6 or 3 or how many we could. Every week we would show them our progress and get their feedback. Progress, feedback, iterate. So this was a really good way to kind of get these people engaged with our product. And we created like a community of people that we could engage. Now, we create this list of 8 key insights out of all the interviews that we did. And we start understanding the patterns between them, which it kind of made us structure into these 2 key buckets of inertia and knowledge. So the inertia is, are you proactive in dealing with your money, for example? Are you actually taking action? Do you know what is the best investment, or do you wait for people to tell you what to do? So how is your relationship and attitude towards money and towards investing? What happens if you start losing money? Do you panic, or do you see it as an opportunity to invest more? And then your financial knowledge. So if you know a lot about investing and money in financial products, obviously you have a different behavior than if you don't. So then we created this matrix, which is our behavior archetypes. Right? If you see at the top the opportunity seeker, this is the super proactive guy and with broad knowledge. So he's constantly researching what's the next big thing, and he's willing to gamble and to take on a new product. He's always tuned into what's happening in the market. And this guy is kind of the opposite, right? So he thinks, I know what I'm doing, I'm not very proactive, I don't like to change, I just leave my money for the long term, and I think, I do all my financial thing on an Excel spreadsheet, I keep my money under the mattress, that kind of stuff, right? So you see a little bit, the key thing is, what are the key behaviors that's going to make them adopt our new investment product? Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. Because we're kind of done now. Tell me.
Yeah, the question is, why there is no people under 30 in your research?
There was no? Yeah, because the people under 30 then then they like still in university, or they don't have any money, they don't have an education degree, or they don't have a good job. Yeah, they were like a stretch too far for us. That's it. We discussed a lot, and we actually spoke to some people, but at the end we thought our sweet spot is this 30 to 45. Is probably the best kind of thing that we can do. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But don't be disencouraged, right? So you go and research about money and start thinking about your retirement. Okay. Summarizing, what are the key things for today? One is the idea is that good design is good business. I think, we talked about the business value of design from McKinsey, and the fact that, even myself, when I started McKinsey, it's not that long ago, I had been a designer for a while, and I started as a graphic designer, and I kind of moved on in my career. And at the beginning, I've never ever thought in my life that I would be sitting in a boardroom with the CEO of Barclays discussing design strategy, right? So that's the big difference. When you understand the potential you have in your hand, if you know how to communicate the value of design, then you've got a completely different way to see things. People don't know what they don't know. If you ask Henry Ford's customer what they wanted to say, faster horses, the idea of output versus outcome, which is really a mindset that is good for product, for design, for the person making the tea, for the driver, for the CEO. Everyone should really gather around this. The fact that you know, customer research is great, but don't do it alone. Also kind of, you know, have the analytical side together with the human side and join up to understand what you need. And then the idea that really move your persona work towards more understanding behavior and attitude and what keeps people awake at night, and not just understanding the key demographic data about the people you're speaking to. Right, we're done. Well, I was going to ask you to just give your feedback by scanning this this little. Yeah.
Нам не придет потом линк. Линка не будет потом. Сейчас нужно.
Назад? Нет, не сюда вот сканируй и
Да,
оставляй.
потом же приходит линк.
Нет, линка потом.
Не выпустишь пока?
Нет, вот сейчас.
So that's it. This is the time that you clap and you ask questions. Really, questions?
I would like to ask about the co-creation. This is a new stream, and I think
Yeah.
it's a part of design thinking. This is something more just interviews, more than deep interviews. This is
Yeah.
when you are co-creating with customers and hearing them well.
Yeah.
Can you share some?
Yeah. So interview is like we normally say it's the first step of our research. When you do one-to-one interviews, then after that we normally, so with these 60 people, we used to do at least once a month a focus group with them. So we bring 5 or 6 people into a room, and we show them prototype, or we show an idea and ask them to either do card sorting or to draw things with us, to really get them kind of to contribute to the process.
And it works from your career, it works. Yeah, because from another point of view, people don't know what they don't know. So how these two statements are living together. Co-create with them, or better create something new for them.
But that's the thing, they don't know. So let them show you what they have in their head, what will solve their problems, because then we can help push to a specific solution. But let them communicate what matters to them, right? Even if they don't know what there is, we'll create this product that is super cool. But then when you actually show it to them after understanding their needs, they will say, that's it. On the other hand,
Them and open their mind.
exactly. But I've been on a focus group with a company, with a train company, right? And we brought 2 customers with them to do a discussion. They were so angry with the company that the whole thing kind of spiraled under control, and they would start shouting at each other. So, you know, you need to moderate that properly. Yeah. Question up behind? You're going to ask something, no? Yes, please. Thank you.
I have one question. Most of us, we are working in the bank, the insurance, and etc. This kind of company, which is really regulated by the
Yeah,
bank.
very good point. Yeah.
So that's the key point that it's not easy. All we are as product owners, and we would like to provide some much more better or easy onboarding processes or any easy
Yeah.
customer journey for our business. But unfortunately, sometimes the regulation is really strict and really blocking for us. So how we can deal with this kind of, the blockers and this kind of regulated things. Otherwise, we can get some penalty for our company, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
From your perspective, for example, you have been such a high kind of user for the customer, right? I have also, to be honest, experienced the same thing in Commerce Bank and Raiffeisen, and I have also in France, for example. I have got my debit card after 14 days. So how we can deal with this kind of regulated, critical things from the design perspective?
Yep.
How you can maybe replace the same journey from your perspective?
Yeah.
Provide much more better than for you.
Yep. Yep. Very good question. So I'm still understanding the Azerbaijani market, but I know already that we suggest to build like a cloud server in Future Lab and say, no, the central bank does not allow the data to be stored on an external cloud. So, whoa, okay. So I'm understanding. But financial services industry is highly regulated everywhere in the world. One of the most regulated industries everywhere, in the UK, in the US, and everywhere. And so I asked this question to someone at Pasha Holding. So what would it take to build like a Revolut here in Azerbaijan, like, ooh, that's not going to be possible. And I said, okay, I understand, but you know, how do you move towards? How do you start kind of unlocking barriers and start moving towards something? It's going to take time, obviously, but I think mindset change is the first step of achieving something. I know the countries, there's lots of rules, and you cannot do this, and you know might risk losing your banking license if you're not applied to the. But that was the same in the UK, I don't know, 20 years ago. It was exactly the same. And it took a while for them to get to where they are now. If you apply for a Monzo account, you get your debit card in like 2 days, in 24 hours, you get your debit card through the post. It's great, right? And at the same time, you get I don't know if you get a virtual card. You can get a virtual card immediately that you can start, you know, using Apple Pay or Google Wallet. But for me, I mean, I don't have the exact answers for you because I haven't been here to say intelligently, you know, what is the specific solution for you guys here. But I think having the mindset to challenge the status quo and to little by little start changing the things that you can actually change, that goes a long way. And I think my example with that we're working with insurance, and I said, man, if we manage to do this for insurance, we can do this for everybody else because insurance is tough, right? Same with banking. So changing the internal processes is one step to start changing people's mindset, right? So that's what I would say. Don't keep fighting because you're there. You know, you're gonna look back in 10 years, say, oh, you know, this was impossible.
The same story in other countries. In front of the capital bank, you can easily open your card. And after
Yeah.
you park, the vault will deliver your card in here.
Yeah,
You have the same thing.
yeah,
No. I mean, if you are the resident of Azerbaijan, so you don't have, you know, facing this kind of challenge.
yeah.
But the same story from my side. I'm going to order the sound card from the Monzo. I will face the same difficulty.
Yeah, and I think
It is the financial institution, I think, is not the key point, and all we should understand that.
Yeah.
That the really sensitive industry and people.
yeah, and think that Azerbaijan is there's a very high digital adoption, so much higher than a lot of countries in Europe, for example, higher than Portugal, not higher than UK, but so you already have the digital, you know, the internet penetration everywhere, so it allows you to do a lot of things that you couldn't do in other places. So take that in your advantage. And I mean, I talk about Capital Bank because my experience of opening the account was really horrible. But you know, I love that I can pay everything through the app. I can pay the parking. I can pay my bills. This is great, right? So there's very good things in there as well. I'm not yet sold on the whole Yumiko thing, but I get in there. And for people who work at Pasha Life, I need the app in English. Anyone Pasha Life here? Oh, you.
He wants to see that it's in English, so I'm going to show you.
All right, okay. Any more?
Despite your unsuccessful onboarding, what's your first impression about the bank in general?
You're putting me on the spot. So I like what Pasha is trying to do with the whole beer ecosystem. This is one thing, right? Sharing data. For me, this is amazing, right? Not a lot of big companies like this, you can do that. You have that vision also to create this ecosystem. So I think this is fantastic. I think the app, there's a lot going on. Like there's all these things at the top, these promotions, it's not for me. I don't like it. You know, for me, I like a banking app. I come in, I want to see how much money I have. I want to transfer money. That's it. I don't want to be distracted. It's not where I'm going to spend half an hour on it every day.
Definitely not about us.
So, but that's me, right? And for me, I always go for simplicity. I like that. But you know, if it's successful, then you're doing the right thing. But we realized for Caixa Bank, where they have like Yumiko inside the Caixa app, we said, you know, there's very little conversion through the app on this e-commerce platform. So not create separate things, you know, like you're distracting people, and you couldn't find, I don't know, where you're I forgot the name now in English. No, he wanted to create like he wanted to find an account certificate so you can rent a place, right? You couldn't find it anywhere. So, but there was like promotions about the equivalent of Umiko everywhere. So why? You know, what are the key journeys that people need, and then focus on that.
Bad news for you.
Yeah. No, I know. But that's me. You know, I'm probably not the key target audience of Beerbank. Maybe I am. So there you go. So you work for Capital Bank? You work for Capital Bank? No. Yeah. Right. So you need to create the better experience for me. Anyone? All right.
So is that, what's the possibilities? Let's say that you've done all these customer surveys and this analytics searches and all done it, and then you want to actually launch your product, but is there any possibility that you can fail it because the market actually is not fairly prepared for that?
So there's always. So let me say it again, because I think
Let's say that the
creativity, innovation.
customer is ready.
Yeah.
Because your surveys showed that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's say the numbers shown in the
Yeah.
time. And also, you've done some sort of research as analytical.
But then you do it and you fail. Is that what your question? Yeah. So I think innovation, there's a lot more room for failure than it does for success, first of all, right? So I think you will fail and then you go again until you get it right. But I think failing is part of the process, and you're only going to get something amazing. Thank you for coming. If you're prepared to fail. But I would, trust the data, not say it. If the data's telling you, you do it. You have a question? No?
So many.
So Annette here is our head of operations at Future Lab, so she's also responsible for, kicking a lot of these processes into place. Anyway, thank you for coming too. Any more? Yeah? All right. Well, thank you very much for coming.